And here we are. I am Kathy Ramsperger from shoresofoursouls.com. And I am thrilled that I have Kathleen M. Rodgers, award-winning novelist, with me today. And welcome, Kathleen. It is so nice to see you.
Hi, Kathy. Thanks for having me.
I am thrilled to have you. And I am. All right. So, voila. Yay. Got it. So, Kathleen was born and raised in New Mexico. And I said she was a novelist whose stories and essays have appeared in both periodicals and essays and anthologies nationwide. Her third novel, Seven Wings to Glory, deals with very difficult subjects in a very heart-lifting way. Seven Wings to Glory, your third novel, Kathleen, deals with racism and war. Yes. And it won an honorable mention for war and military in the 2017 Forward Indies Book of the Year Awards. And it was shortlisted for the 2017 Somerset Awards. Her second novel, Johnny Come Lately, has garnered multiple awards, including a 2015 gold medal for literary fiction from Military Writers Society of America. And it's available in both paperback and hardback. You're also the author of the award-winning novel, The Final Salute, which was featured in USA Today, the Associated Press, and Military Times. And you live with your husband, who's a retired fighter pilot and commercial airline pilot in North Texas. Got 2 rescue dogs, and you have a military family, including 2 sons. And you are ready to launch this wonderful new novel. And why don't you show us the cover? And isn't that gorgeous, everybody? It's such a gorgeous cover.
The Flying Cutterbucks.
The Flying Cutterbucks. And it's due out on June the 2nd, and it's already getting loads of recognition, even though its publication date is a while away. It asks the question, how do women of one family deal with a serial sex offender when men have all the power? And boy, is that a timely question. So I'm going to read a synopsis now. On the outskirts of Pardon, New Mexico, let me read it like this. On the outskirts of Pardon, New Mexico, Trudy returns to her mother Jewel to navigate an old house filled with haunting mementos of her father who went missing in action over North Vietnam. As she helps her mother sift through the memories and finally lay her father to rest, Trudy will do her own soul searching to say goodbye to the dead and find her way along with the other women in her family and through the next election. Decades ago, Trudy, Georgia, and Aunt Star formed a code of silence to protect each other from an abusive man who terrorized their family. One act of solidarity long ago lives with them still, with the election of a president who brags about groping women without their consent. Old wounds and deep secrets come alive again, forcing hard truths to be told and even harder truths to be left to the dead. That's such a beautiful description. It gives me chills. So let's talk about a little bit about your novel, but first, will you read a little from it about, go ahead.
I would love to. My protagonist, her name is Trudy Cutterbuck. She's in her late 50s. She's just retired as a flight attendant for Southwest Airlines, but she got hired back in the day when they were stewardess, wearing the little hot pants and the go-go boots. Trudy, I'm gonna read a dream sequence About a little over halfway through the book, she wakes up from a dream, and I'll just go ahead and read, and it's not very long. The dream that woke her at sunrise returned. As she walked to the edge of the patio to keep an eye on the dog, the dream reeled through her mind like an old memory. Wanting to capture it in writing to help her make sense of it, she pulled out her smartphone, opened the Notes app, and began thumbing the keys on her screen. Alone on the shoulder of a steep mountain road, I stood in the bend of a hairpin curve and searched the deep canyon below. All I could see for miles were large boulders dotted with prickly pear cactus and the occasional glint of metal from some long ago wreckage. Then from somewhere behind me, the sound of children singing, 99 bottles of beer on the wall, echoed through the mountain pass. Whipping my head around, I watched Mama's station wagon careen around the curve in the road and sail over the side of the mountain. But instead of crashing into the canyon below, the station wagon sprouted wings and rode the thermals across a tranquil sky. As the sound of children's voices faded and I longed to join them, a passenger door flung open and Bogey tumbled out. From my spot on the road, I thrust giant arms skyward, for I was the big sister, and it was my job to catch him. But no matter how far I stretched, I couldn't reach him, for my arms weren't long enough. When I woke up, my eyes leaked with tears, and Zia stared at me from her spot on the bed where she rested her chin on my belly.
Powerful. So I'd like to ask a little bit about how dreams move your stories forward, like the one you just shared.
Well, I'll share with you now, 7 Wings to Glory, the title of my 3rd novel. I dreamed the title. I woke up at 3 a.m. years ago.
Dream.
And I woke up, Tom was still flying for American Airlines. I woke up, sat up straight in bed. He's walking out with his, in his uniform, going to work. I'm like, 7 Wings to Glory. He's like, what? I said, oh my God, 7 Wings to Glory. He goes, sounds like the name of a book. I wrote it down, woke up, I went back to sleep, got up that morning. It turns out it was the 10th anniversary of the space shuttle blowing up over Texas. That wasn't my story to tell. That story had been told. But I got out the newspaper and I started reading. There were 7 astronauts on board. Now, I knew that was not my story, but I knew that was a gift, that the title was a gift, and it was my job as an author and a novelist to find the story for 7 Wings to Glory, and I did. So dreams,
that's so beautiful.
Dreams
it's
apart.
Beautiful.
I don't blow off dreams. I worry books into being. That's how I write. I worry. When I'm actively writing a novel, it's hard for me to read. I'm either one way or the other. So my dreams, I dream in stories sometimes, but the key is to jot it down, even if it's scribbles and you can't read your writing the next morning.
Mm-hmm.
You figure it out.
Mm-hmm. And in a way, the dreams are a gift above the worry of worrying the book into being, don't you find?
Yes,
they consolidate it, and
they
gifts
validate.
are what they are.
It's a
That's
validation.
That's it.
Sometimes the dreams, and then when any of us that like to try to analyze whatever the dream is, whether it's writers or anyone, I think sometimes even the most disturbing dreams, once you can analyze them, once you get past maybe the dark stuff, then you figure out, what does that really mean? So.
Yeah, that's our job. So I've read your past novels, and I'm a fan. And by the way, thank you for being here, viewers. Please, if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section and we will get to them in this live. And if we run out of time, um, Kathleen, would you be so kind as to answer them in writing?
Absolutely.
But for now, I'll start with the questions. So you have some themes in those first three novels, and I haven't read this one. And I'm wondering if the themes of those first novels, flying and military families and social issues, will continue in the Flying Cutterbucks. And
Yes.
if so, how? And how does it differ from the first three?
Absolutely. Those things continue along with dogs, maybe a cat or two. I love animals, birds. The flying in my first novel, The Final Salute, the main character was a fighter pilot. And I wrote in the male viewpoint, yes, I did. And I did, even though I'm not a pilot.
I
I
did
gave
too.
myself permission. In the Flying Cutterbucks, our fighter pilot is a man named Major Shep Cutterbuck, and he's missing in action in Vietnam. So he's not the main character. My main character is Trudy. She was an older military brat, and her sister Georgia is a little bit younger. And they had a brother named Bogey. Bogey died when he was 11. That's part of the story. Their mother's name is Jewel, and their Jewel's sister is 2 years older, and that's Aunt Star. Aunt Star, I can't wait for my readers to come meet Aunt Star, Trudy, Georgia, Jewel, and Zia the cat, Mr. Grumples, or Zia the dog, Mr. Grumples the cat. This novel differs in that I went all out on women's empowerment, women's issues. Yes, I did. And it took some things in our country to push me to become the activist that I was born to be. And all of my author friends, I'm speaking to a lot of you out there right now, or if you catch this later when it's archived, a lot of my friends weren't worried about losing readers. They became activists and spoke out against oppression, against sexual abuse, against sexual assault. And all of those people out there helped empower me to not be afraid and to find my courage and my brave to write the book I was born to write, and that is The Flying Cutterbucks.
You're a very brave writer. It takes courage to write a book like that, and it
It's
will
my
change
job.
lives.
It's
Yeah.
my job, and as a old military wife turned military mother, it's also my job as a novelist to not be afraid to speak out against certain issues that some people in our country might say, oh my gosh, you're being unpatriotic. Oh no, I'm a true patriot. I have sent a husband to harm's way. I have sent a son to war. I've lived the fear of the doorbell ringing every second of every day. It's my job to bring that to the page.
That's beautifully said. So I know place figures large in your writing as well. You have a great way of making it a character, and you have a great way of making the reader feel home. We feel at home with you. Can you speak as how you find setting to be important and how you figure out what the setting will be?
Setting is, as you said it so beautifully, it becomes another character. When I'm writing a book, whether it's my main characters or a secondary character or an animal or a bird flying past on a runway, I need to be there. I like become the characters. I'm in this place, and none of us write in a vacuum. We don't live in a vacuum, whether we live in Alaska or Hawaii or China. We're in a place with those cultures, the sky, the weather. Are we in a desert, Southwest? Are we on a beach. The settings, the temperature. Is it raining? Is it fall, spring, summer, winter? Is it winter, but it's 90 degrees out on a day. Setting is so important. And in this novel, I set it mostly in eastern New Mexico, where I'm from, and also there's a town in New Mexico, Las Vegas, New Mexico. It's northern New Mexico. Yes, there's a Las Vegas, New Mexico, and it's a historic little town. There's 3 or 4 chapters set there, but I set it in eastern New Mexico for this 4th novel, and at my age, as a love letter to my home state. And the eastern New Mexico sometimes is the forgotten side of the state because Taos, Santa Fe, Albuquerque, they get all the glory.
It's beautiful, though. It's so full of nature, full of wild nature. At least I've only been once to that part of your state, but it's a gorgeous place.
Thank you. The land of enchantment. That's the logo, or the New Mexico is the land of enchantment.
Well, it fits. It fits in so many ways. I think about Ghost Ranch, for instance.
Oh, exactly. Yes.
Enchanted. So I want to talk a little bit about synchronicity and about how I know you, because people are waiting for this. And as most of my viewers know, I worked for the International Red Cross and Red Crescent in Geneva, Switzerland. My husband had not come yet. He was still in the United States. It was summer. It was a brutally hot summer. It was over 100 degrees and incredibly hot. And I was so excited to find an American magazine in the little cafe where they sold a magazine rack, is what it was. This is the magazine. And is it August 9th, 1994?
Yes.
So it was really hot month. And in Switzerland, they don't have air conditioning. So I thought, great, it's the weekend. It's my first weekend where I'm not working. I'm going to sit down and read. And I turned to this article.
Don't look at my fingernails, everybody. I haven't been.
Don't look at mine either. Hair and fingernails. They're COVID hair and fingernails.
That's
you look
me
gorgeous.
When I was done. Tom and Thomas and JP, dying to be thin.
So I saw Kathleen there with her family and with her son on her lap. And I had not decided whether I would have a child or not. And I will just admit that I was having problems, worried about weight with pregnancy. As it ended, I lost weight right after pregnancy. It was lighter when I took him home than before I got pregnant. But that's how this article changed my life, and how articles can change lives and how books can change lives so dramatically. And then we met again when I was getting ready to publish Shores, and you helped me with that as well. And I don't know whether it was the first conversation, it might have been the second one we had, where we learned that you were that author that had changed my life, that journalist.
And I think you probably told me that before. I don't know if it was 2015, 2016, and let's just say Johnny Bernhard, our author friend Johnny, is also a connection. Johnny, if you're listening, here's Johnny. But the other day when we were chatting about me coming on, you told me the story again, and it hit me again that back in 1994, I'm in my 30s here in Texas, 2 little boys. I was writing for Family Circle, but what was I really wanting? The novel. I was writing my novel. I wanted all of that so bad. Little did I know, another writer in Geneva, Switzerland, happened, I guess, the European edition Because yes, that's back in the day when I really did have millions of readers around the world. And I didn't have to distribute. I didn't have to worry about distribution in those days with the
Well,
Mac.
those the good old days.
But Kathy, I love that it really hit me the other day that you and I got so close so fast. And little did I know that in 1994, when I'm an aspiring novelist, yes, I might have had work out there in family circle, military times, that kind of thing. I wanted the novel. I wanted it so bad. But I kept working at it. And the first novel took 16 years. So anyone out there that's aspiring, still trying to get your novel published, I'm the example. Never give up. Perseverance and persistence.
That's my favorite quote. Winston Churchill, never, ever, ever give up. And if he could say that during World War II, I figure it's a really good quote to
We need
aspire
that now
to.
too, don't we?
And we never know which article is going to touch somebody. And my son Sean was born in December 1995. So I am going to go to some questions online.
Everybody, feel free to zoom in. Those are some author books back there. I've got books in every room in the house, so I couldn't feature everybody. But at the last minute, I put a bunch of books face out.
It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. I told her before we started that it looks like a bookstore, a writer's office.
Yeah.
So, I appreciate underlying secondary themes that focus on social issues, and your last novel focused on racial differences as much as this one focuses on women's empowerment. And can you speak to that? You do it so deftly, and I personally know it's not easy to write about, having done it myself.
The social issues.
The social issues dealing with people who are different than us.
Okay. Also, in the Flying Cutterbucks, I also have racism against Latinos. Being called names the last few years. I touch on that through some characters. One of my female characters, she's more secondary, but her name is Loopy Belen. I can't wait for my readers to meet Loopy. You will meet Loopy in chapter 3, and she is the owner of Loopy's Diner. She is a powerhouse. And I will say this, Loopy Belen helps Trudy find her voice as an activist, along with Aunt Star, who's an old activist. For me, as a person, as a woman, as a struggling believer, that has to make its way into my fiction. That's how I write. I write to understand. I write to figure out. I write to discover. That's what drives me to finish a book. And by the way, writing is hard work. It does not come easy for me. I'm not one of those writers, oh, I love to sit down and write. Maybe 40 something years ago, since I was 15 years old. No, it's work, but it's worth it when you finish a paragraph, a sentence, you find just the right word, a theme. And whether you have millions of readers or that one reader. And back in the day when you picked up Family Circle in Geneva, Switzerland, I might have had millions of readers, but Kathy, you were that one reader who needed to read that story by.
Oh, there were more than me.
Right. But the fact, and now we're talking, so issues are important, and I hate to say my novels are issue driven because the characters, the story still.
I think your novels are story driven and character driven, but they deal deftly with social issues.
Yes. It's just important to me.
It shows. So here I've got some comments. Joe Rivera, that's my sister, so excited for her. Claire Fullerton. Hi, Kathy and Kathleen. Great to see y'all. Great to see you, Claire and Kathleen.
Johnny Bernhardt asked a question.
Okay. But Claire asks,
Oh,
what kind of breed is the dog in the Flying Cutterbucks? I always
oh,
would.
Claire. He's a big yellow dog, and I'm not going to give away his magic, but you would love him because you're a total dog lover, Claire. He's a big yellow dog. He's the color of a tumbleweed. And he has to show up. He comes, he comes about halfway through the book, and he definitely has a job. And he's just not there. Oh, that's a cute critter. No, he has a job to do. And it's not,
Characters.
and his job might be a little mystical.
Well, that's enough to pique my interest. That's
Johnny,
exciting.
Johnny Bernhardt sent
Johnny,
me a text. She said, my
absolutely.
question is how you incorporate the mysticism of New Mexico into your writing. Oh gosh.
Mm.
Even in all my books, even in my fighter pilot book, the first book, I dropped in my mysticism or magical realism. Whether it's in New Mexico, anywhere I write, this is how I live my life. I'm almost 62. I'm still that little girl daydreaming who still believes that in hope and magic, and a lot of dark stuff happens in real life. But one of my favorite words is hope. And when I'm writing fiction, sometimes we can't, or just like in real life, we can't always explain things. And so sometimes as the writer, if we may not know if something really happened, like was that a swirl of vapor that kind of came through the room, or was it sheetrock from sheetrock dust? You know what, it's whatever you want it to be. I want it to be whatever the reader thinks it is. There's a lot of that in the Flying Cutterbucks. I don't know if I answered Johnny's question, but and
I
then
think you did.
with New Mexico, out in eastern New Mexico, where I'm from, it's really more like West Texas. It's flat until you get a little farther. The sunsets are gorgeous. When I grew up, I'm like, how come everybody else has water and lakes and ponds and rivers and trees? We just have dirt. Well,
And sunsets.
and sunsets. We have amazing sunsets, and you can see forever on a clear day.
So thank you for that. It shows that you love your state in your writing, and life is a lot like story. I mean, a lot of times we don't know, what was that, and I love that you let us decide whether it's real or not real. Well, real is of this world. A little about your writing routine. We've spoken a lot about how
I'm
yeah, I
laughing.
know. We talk a lot about that, right?
Yeah.
Can you tell us what a typical day when you're writing looks like? And I know it's all different. That's why I want you to explain it. I don't think there's another author on this planet that I feel more connected to that way. I do it exactly the same way.
Okay. My writing process is messy, disorganized. I'm not an outliner. If I tell you I take notes, let's just say I never got an A in penmanship. Okay, and I can't do math either, but I can scribble, and it's just a messy process. And I take chaos and all these ideas swimming in my head and scenes and spinning up there, And I slowly, it's like if we had a frame, a picture frame, and I just try to, if it's throwing up a word here, throwing a word there, and somehow, or some, like a lot of writers like to say, it's like putting a puzzle together. I puzzle everything together. I worry the story together. There are days I called my sister one time when I was writing the Flying Cutterbucks. She called me, my oldest sister, Laura, and I said, "Oh my God, it's 6 p.m. I haven't brushed my teeth today." And I probably was still in my PJs. Other days, like I washed my hair. When I was younger and in my 30s and working on that first novel and still writing for Family Circle and some military times, I would get the boys to school. I was a big long distance runner. Then I'd go run. I kept office hours then. I had to be disciplined. So my whole writing life has changed now that I'm older. When the boys were little, I kept office hours or school hours. They gave me built-in schedule. When they were at school, I got all my stuff out of the way. I came in this room. I didn't have the fancy bookcases then. I had an ugly, ugly desk. It didn't matter. I kept office hours, and I will tell you right now, all you moms out there, younger moms, are working at home, teaching your kids. But back then, I remember one day I was in a big robe. It was winter. I looked at the clock. It was 3 p.m. I'm like, oh my God, I got to go pick up the boys. I got the keys, got in my blazer back then, pulled up to the curb, and it was covered in bird poop. The boys come down the sidewalk like they were so embarrassed. And then there's mom in her robe. But you know what? I got that novel written.
You
When
picked
I
up
get
your boys.
So some days I'm dressed, makeup, it's whatever. During the pandemic right now, oh, every day, whether I get totally cleaned up, I'm brushing my teeth, cleaning my glasses, and putting on mascara and some kind of lip and some
It
jewelry.
helps, doesn't it? It helps.
Yes. And that's mentally for me now that I might not have done a few months ago. It's just, it's powering through. It's boxing back the fear. It's facing an empty screen, facing an empty page, sometimes just one word at a time.
Mhm. Thank you for that. That was a great, gritty description of what it's like to be a writer,
It's not
a
glamorous.
career writer. Well, a few
There are
seconds
glamour
perhaps here and
moments.
there.
There
Yeah.
are glamour moments.
So Marilyn Rice says should be bubbly. I think she's just commenting on it. Oh, okay. So and Marilyn's coming on next week. She says, I'm 7 years older than you, which is 7 years older than me. Without hope, there is nothing. One of my favorite words too.
Oh,
So, so we need to wrap up, but I would like to ask, I'm pretty sure you have a quote or something to share with aspiring writers or those of us who are still trying to build our audience. 4 novels later and all of those magazine articles and anthology stories. Is there something you read in early on that helped you and gave you hope to keep going?
yes. Thank you for that, Kathy. I read an article in Texas Monthly sometime after 1995. I can't cite the writer's name in the article, but it was in the article. It mentioned a Texas writer. His name was Grover Lewis, and he had passed away. I didn't know much about him, but I'll just read the quote from Texas Monthly. Grover Lewis died on the upswing, out from under the publishing world's manhole cover. He went out a writer, unsung perhaps, but it was in the writing and not the applause that he found where he belonged. You got to do the work before you get the.
It's a beautiful quote. Thank you so much for being with me here and with us today, Kathleen. I wish you so many well wishes on the Flying Cutterbucks. People, you need to read this book. Um, Kathleen is represented by Diane Nine of Nine Speakers, and her newest novel is published by Wyatt McKenzie. It is on pre-order, I know, on Amazon, but where else can we find it? And where can we find you these days?
I'm Kathleen M. Rodgers, and it's Rodgers. Just, online booksellers. Oh, anyone in the Dallas Fort Worth area, Interabang Books is going to have my books in their store. Anybody out there, book clubs, please. I would love for y'all to read my book. Independent bookstores, y'all, we New Mexicans can say y'all get my book. I would love to hear from readers.
Thank you. As that's something you can do for all authors, and so it's wonderful advice. So I always end with my tea bag wisdom, and when I opened it this morning, I thought, I have never read so true a quote about somebody that I know and care for and love her work. So I'm going to read it and then I'll show it. You will feel fulfilled when you do the impossible for someone else. So, can you see it?
I can. And show us your mug with Shores of Our Souls.
Here's my mug.
Here's her novel.
The wonderful Elizabeth Pfeiffer gave me this as a gift when it came out. And I drink from it all day long, my herbal teas. This is a yogi tea. Thank you for being with us, Kathleen. Thank you for your work, and thank you for the friendship. And we'll be back. I'm Kathy Ramsperger at shoresofourSouls.com. You can find me there. Take care, everybody. Bye for now.